answers? I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
I woke up this morning, got myself a gun. Mama always said I'd be the chosen one.
Critics of a new Louisiana law requiring a display of the Ten Commandments in every public school classroom are promising to challenge the measure in court.
Louisiana's governor signed the law Wednesday. It requires a poster-sized display with large, easily readable typeface in all classrooms from kindergarten up to state-funded universities.
Legal challenges are already promised, and Republican Governor Jeff Landry says he knows that a legal fight is coming. He told reporters, quote, "I can't wait to be sued." Now, Louisiana is the first state in the nation to require the Ten Commandments be displayed in public school classrooms, and last year, Louisiana's GOP-controlled state legislature passed a similar measure that requires "In God We Trust" to be displayed in all public school classrooms as well, so this just one more step.
And we know the argument already. The ACLU and the others going to complain about, one, you're conflicting and you're putting religion into our schools. These are public schools. Let's refresh that. Make sure you understand it. These are all public school institutions, including universities in the state of Louisiana. I, for one, I'm all happy about it. Whether it be in the classroom or on a large monument in front of the school. What do we have coming to the top that's complaining so much? Those who really just want to move away from God, period. But the Louisiana legislature and the Governor Landry are taking a little bit different approach. I don't think it's going to really win out in court, but let it be fought out. As he said, I'm ready. Bring it on. And I'm glad to see somebody stand up and say we need to return to God. Now, you may call him by some other name. You may be Jewish. You may be Christian. You may be Hindu. You may be Buddhist. You may even be Muslim and look at Allah. And of course, that's going to be the other question that comes forward. What about our statements of faith? This is not really a statement of faith. This is the list of 10 commandments that, according to the Old Testament, and I believe in it, gave Moses on tablets when he went to the top of the mountain. If you recall, Moses later broke them apart because when he came back, he found his own people were sinning against God because they were already worshiping other gods and altars and everything else. I won't get all the way into theology on it, but I do want to continue to focus on what Louisiana did and what it means, what it says about our nation at this point. First, let me welcome you aboard. This is hour number 1 of Larry Connors USA, June 20, 2024. And I'm reminding you, when we're on the air, we are streaming video. You can watch the program. How do you do that? Well, you go to News Talk STL, Rumble, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or you go to Larry Connors USA, Rumble, Facebook, or Twitter. Now, if you miss anything, either part, audio and or video, or you want to go back and just listen to it again and share with others, I always encourage you to share. You find the podcast. They go up immediately after we complete at LarryConnorsUSA.com and also at Larry Connors USA Facebook. Not hard to find us. And let me take a moment to remind you, we have 2 great FM signals where you can listen to us from anywhere within the region, but even I don't care if you're in Italy. Good luck for you in Italy. You can still listen because if you got one of these, a cell phone, you've got us in your pocket. You've got a radio. You can listen to us from around the world with the News Talk STL app, absolutely free, or you can simply open up for streaming audio. Very easy. NewsTalkSTL.com. You push a button, and it takes you to another page. You push a button, and suddenly you're listening. And I appreciate you doing it, however you listen, and spread the word to others. So here we have Louisiana stepping forward to do this. And, of course, the groups that are already challenging are coming forward. The American Civil Liberties Union, the American Civil Liberties Union of Louisiana, Americans United for Separation of Church and State, and the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Now, that's got to be a great group, Freedom from Religion Foundation. And the law saying all that the law does to violate longstanding Supreme Court precedent and the First Amendment, that this would result in unconstitutional religious coercion of students. Just because you have it in the room, you're coercing the students? Well, let's go back to the challenges that are coming.
The law requires schools display the text in a poster or frame document 11 by 14 inches at minimum in a large, easily readable font. And it also requires a 200-word context statement saying the Ten Commandments were a prominent part of the American public education for almost 3 centuries, up until 50 years ago. The governor says having religion is an important foundation in the classroom.
This bill mandates the display of the Ten Commandments in every classroom in public, elementary, secondary, and post-education schools in the state of Louisiana. Because if you want to respect the rule of law, you got to start from the original lawgiver, which was Moses.
That is Governor Landry of Louisiana. He knows he's putting his state up for several lawsuits, and he really doesn't care because he believes this is what we should do. We need to return God to our country. And they're not saying students have to simply state it as part of a Pledge of Allegiance, but it's there in front of them. Now, you could put up the basic tenets of, treat your neighbor as you would yourself, things of that nature, without calling it the Ten Commandments. You could put some of these up in that fashion. But they want to go all the way. And as far as the lawsuits, we're ready. Bring them on, the governor says.
The ACLU and multiple other organizations now preparing to sue the Landry administration. They released a statement saying in part, quote, all students should feel safe and welcome in our public schools. HB 71 would undermine this critical goal and prevent schools from providing an equal education to all students regardless of faith. We will not allow Louisiana lawmakers to undermine these religious freedom rights. And looking big picture here, other states, including Texas, South Carolina, and Utah, recently also tried to pass similar laws. None of them got through with the same text like this Louisiana law, but another case that we could potentially see all the way up at the Supreme Court in the future.
Yep, that's where it's going to end up. We all know that. And now the question would be, how many other states decide, well, let's go ahead and do the same thing? What we're having right now is a battle to save America. Before we go too far down this dark road. Yesterday, if you were listening, I had a Catholic nun who was doing a podcast and stating on her own that this election coming up is a battle between good and evil. That is very direct and very accurate. Which gives me an opportunity to remind you that this next Tuesday, June 25th, we are hosting a program with the Heritage Foundation in St. Charles, Saving America 2024, focusing on the economy and the courts. Saving America 2024, and we certainly need to do that. From the Heritage Foundation, Joel Griffith on the economic side, Zach Smith would join us, reference the legal issues, and I have no doubt this case is going to come up as a discussion. It takes place at the St. Charles Funny Bone next Tuesday. The doors open at 6:30, and I can get you free tickets. All you have to do is contact us at newstalkstl.com, newstalkstl.com, and say how many you need. It will cost you nothing. We just need to know for sure how many to accommodate. I'm bringing several guests, and you're welcome to bring at least 3 others with you. And I look forward to seeing you. That'll be June 25th, next Tuesday, 6:30 at the St. Charles Funny Bone, Saving America 2024. And don't forget, 5 days after that, the election. And speaking of the election, there are new rules out on the election that they wrapped them all up. And they did by coin flip to decide who gets the final word on the debate. Donald Trump won by a coin flip to get the final word. I'm sure Biden will be more than glad to be ending it, just sitting there listening, scowling possibly. In fact, let me point this out to you. That coin flip to determine the podium placement and the order of closing statements, the coin landed on the Biden's campaign pick, tails. You know, it says a lot when you go in a coin flip and you choose tails, really? Which meant his campaign got to choose whether it wanted to select the president's podium position or the order of closing statements. Biden campaign chose to select the podium position, which means the Democrat president will be on the right side of your viewing screen and putting Trump on the left as you look at it. I guess that's supposed to tell you that Trump is a lefty. Good luck with selling that message. But when they made that decision, then Trump got to decide who closes, and he said, I will. Good. I'm glad. In the meantime, Israel continues hunting down Hamas terrorists in Gaza on the south of Israel, as you well know. But Hezbollah is escalating war in northern Gaza, firing missiles and rockets from Lebanon, and this is rapidly escalating.
Hezbollah's leader has issued a threat to Israel, saying if a, quote, total war is launched against the terror group, quote, no place in Israel will be safe from the group's weapons. He said the Jewish state must prepare for attacks from the ground, air, and sea, saying Hezbollah will fight with, quote, no rules and no ceiling.
They began to lob missiles and rockets and drones into northern Israel on a regular basis, and they've escalated this in recent weeks. And as a result of that, Israelis have been killed, and more than 60,000 Israelis have had to leave their cities, villages, homes. They're in hotels, they're further in the south, they're somewhere else. It's a situation that cannot continue indefinitely. Israel cannot allow Hezbollah to turn the north of Israel, the Galilee, the Golan, into an open, a no-go zone.
A no-go zone. Now, the speaker there was the Clifford May from the Defense for Democracy's Foundation. Netanyahu made a statement last night that has angered the Biden administration.
The administration has been withholding weapons and ammunition to Israel. Israel, America's closest ally, fighting for its life. During World War II, Churchill told the United States, give us the tools, we'll do the job. And I say, give us the tools and we'll finish the job a lot faster.
The White House's response also coming quick and sharp.
Let me just start off by saying that we generally do not know what he's talking about. We just don't.
I have no doubt she's absolutely correct. They don't know what he's talking about because they don't understand anything. That's where the difference is. Netanyahu made it very clear. You've been holding back weapons. The White House will tell you, no, we've been sending weapons, but on our time schedule. And they did hold some back because they feared Israel would use it to target civilians. Civilians are going to die in this war, and they're already, as you heard, in the northern part of Israel, dying from attacks from Hezbollah, missiles and rockets being fired in. And there's concern that Hezbollah could ramp that up so much that even the vaulted and basically highly praised Iron Dome would not be enough to protect Israel. And I'm talking about even the major cities of Israel. But the White House, because Netanyahu was again saying, you're not doing everything you can. You said you'd be our support. The White House canceled a meeting with Israel on Iran after Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu accused the U.S. of withholding those weapons. Netanyahu released his video claiming he had told the Secretary of State Blinken it, quote, was inconceivable in the past few months your administration has been withholding weapons and ammunition to Israel. Biden's top advisors were, quote, angered by those public statements, and they decided to make it clear on their own with the statement. And they said the decision makes it clear there are consequences for pulling such stunts, so we're not going to have this virtual meeting we were going to schedule with you. No. Take your marbles and go home. That's the Biden administration in dealing with the terrorists that are attacking, wanting to wipe out Israel. And we do have an update, and a sad update, on hostages.
We're approaching 9 months since Hamas attacked Israel, killing 1,200 people and taking more than 250 hostages. This morning, we're learning that less than half of those remaining hostages may still be alive. The Wall Street Journal reporting that 70 of the remaining 120 hostages are believed to be dead, and the information the Journal does state came directly from U.S. officials, but additional specifics not yet known at this point. A lot of developments that are happening pretty much on an hourly basis as usual.
This is tragic information if it plays out to be factual, but I have to give the reporting some credibility. It's based on some information after that raid that rescued the 4 hostages about a week and a half ago. And so as the intelligence was gathered, as more information was gathered about the status of the remaining hostages, it's long been estimated at least 30 were believed to be dead in captivity through torture or mistreatment by Hamas. And so when we move that forward, it seems as though, and although now Hamas nor Israel have commented on this report, it seems as though more are dead, unfortunately, in this. And this is a tragedy of what Hamas did in taking these hostages, holding them in terrible situations, torturing them, and general mistreatment throughout their captivity out here. But I would hate to say this is likely a fact.
More than likely it is. That's Mark Chandler, a Mideast expert. Everything that's happening in the Middle East and around the world, Putin going to North Korea. Victor Davis Hanson with the Hoover Institute says we are in a dangerous time.
They cooked up this idea that they were going to empower an Iranian, Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthi axis, and this was going to be the Persian Shia counterbalance to Israel and the moderate Gulf regime. So they trashed Saudi Arabia, they trashed Israel, they built up this axis, and they called it creative tension. And then we could vacate the Middle East and then play one side off against the other, completely oblivious that our friends in the Gulf were far better than the Iranians, of course, and Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. But this is the most dangerous time in our lifetime, Sean, all the way until Inauguration Day, because Putin sees he's trying to get nuclear proxies in Iran and North Korea to do what he thinks we're doing in Ukraine.
Yes, and Victor Davis Hanson said when they cooked it up, he's talking about the Obama administration and Biden helping carry it out. In the next hour, how the Biden White House continues to claim that our open border does not represent a threat to U.S. citizens. Really? Really? Well, up next, my guest in the race between U.S. and China to the last frontier, space, lock and load, ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
My sponsor, Wellington Environmental, has helped thousands deal with hazardous materials. Hospitals, offices, schools, even homes. Here's something new. Wellington now offers dustless blasting. This is just like sandblasting, but without all the dust and emissions. Wellington uses everything from ground glass, walnuts, corn, even dry ice pellets. One university had Wellington remove their parking lot striping because dustless blasting is fast and it does not damage the concrete. So as a business or homeowner, I'm sure you could use this process. Industrial tanks, swimming pools, graffiti on buildings. And in fact, Wellington is blasting a Texaco station that will be revised as an historic building. Check the website for details and photos. WellingtonSTL.com. Wellington STL.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Horace, Americans individually have lost over $4,000 in income and over $7,000 where you have a household with both parents working.
It shouldn't be, it's the economy stupid. We should just say, stupid! It's the economy. Unbelievable the devastation that Americans are feeling.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, weekdays at 3:30 on News Talk STL.
If you haven't been to Lit Cigar Lounge in the district at Chesterfield, you're missing a great experience. Premium cigars, drinks, spacious seating, TVs in every direction. This and more explain why Lit was voted Best Cigar Lounge 2 years in a row. Now you can be at Lit and order Napoli Brothers pizza and pasta delivered to you. In fact, Napoli's just a few doors down. A coal-fired oven giving a unique taste. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, now open in the Chesterfield district.
Are you thinking about buying medicine online? A search for online pharmacies yields more than 20 million results. But which ones can you trust? Medicines bought from unlicensed online pharmacies can be dangerous. You may get a fake drug, your condition may get worse, or you may experience a bad reaction. Don't put your health at risk. To learn how to find an online pharmacy that's safe and legal, visit fda.gov/BeSafeRx. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Great news for my sponsor, Napoli Sea. And it's no surprise to me nor hundreds who have dined there. The first time I entered, it was clear Napoli Sea is unique. The decor, the fish, imaginative cocktails, and of course Napoli Sea is right next door to Napoli 3 in St. Charles. Napoli 2 is in Town and Country. The original Cafe Napoli is in Clayton, and I'm honored to endorse each of them. Visit any of the Cafe Napolis.
This is News Talk STL.
Run, run, run with the railroad when their backs are turned. Run, run, run with the railroad when their backs are turned. Run, run, run with the railroad. Get out of their sight. When the engine turns, then you gotta move on, and you gotta move on at night.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Welcome back. It was in March this year that Peter Navarro, an ex-White House aide to former President Trump, reported to federal prison in Miami, becoming the first former White House official to be imprisoned for contempt of Congress. He got a chance to stop at a gas station, talk to reporters briefly, and he said, "I am pissed. That's what I'm feeling right now. God bless you all. See you on the other side." Well, on the other side of the moon, China has a flag that is flying. They planted it earlier. Joining me now is a colleague of Peter Navarro. They were working on a book prior to him being in prison. Greg Autry. The title of the book is Red Moon Rising, How America Will Beat China on the Final Frontier. Welcome, Greg.
Welcome, and thank you for having me on the show.
Well, I'd obviously like to have you, but I'd also be glad to have Peter. I guess that's not very likely. Go ahead.
I would too. We're all looking forward to Peter getting out in mid-July, and frankly, if I was one of the, I'm trying to think of a polite word, but there isn't one, people who would put him there, I would be quaking, because he is going to be a force of nature to be dealt with, and I'm looking forward to working with him. Right now, I'm out promoting our new book, Red Moon Rising.
Well, very quickly, before we get into full details of the book and the race on this final frontier with China, you guys spent obviously a lot of time on pulling it together. How quickly did you get it wrapped up before he actually had to report to prison?
Yeah, well, Peter and I worked together for 20 years, going back to UC Irvine in the early 2000s, and we've written a number of things on space over the years. I helped Peter put together the space policy for the first Trump administration, which he articulated in some articles in the fall of 2016, right before the election. I then served in the White House at the same time Peter was there as the White House liaison at NASA, and later I was appointed to be chief financial officer by Trump. So Peter and I were always working together on space, but we really started working on this book about August, September of last year. We had it kind of all in our mind, and Peter's an incredibly quick writer and been a mentor of mine. So we got it out. We wanted to get it published immediately. We didn't want to wait for hardback, so we went direct to paperback because we think the policy choices in there are extremely important. So it's available now on Amazon.
All right, well, I want to go through it, and I'd mentioned that he was telling reporters, I'll see you on the other side, which leads me to part of your book. And of course, China, this last June, unfurled its red and gold flag on the far side of the moon, then collected rock and soil samples to bring back to Earth. That spaceship is due to land somewhere in the Inner Mongolia region of China 5 days from now. But this book titled Red Moon Rising, this is another front line for us. If China now has some access to the moon, or indicate they can get there, what is the threat level?
Yeah, to be clear, they have succeeded in getting there multiple times. Their Chang'e 5 lander is really identical to this one. It landed near the South Polar region and put up a flag and returned soil missiles. This is kind of a duplicate mission to that. And they've been very successful, whereas, frankly, the U.S. had one failure to reach the moon earlier this year and a lander that it fell over after it landed. The Russians crashed on the moon. The Israelis, Japanese, and several others have attempted and failed. Only India and China have succeeded, and that's a new world we've got to pay attention to.
And you mentioned India, right?
Yeah, India had a success.
Right. I want to make sure we include them. So the stakes obviously have to be considered high, but what's the payoff? Or if you don't become the first and the dominant, what's the payoff?
Sure. So there are a number of resources in the moon. When you look up and you see those craters out there, they were each made by the impact of an asteroid, many of them filled with valuable metals, platinum, gold, titanium, and rare earths that we're having trouble getting to because we've allowed China and Russia to secure the global supply chain on these critical elements that we need for our military and our industry. They're available on the moon. China will go there, I'm convinced, and find ways to tie up the best land as quickly as possible by establishing scientific experiments and other things that can't be interfered with on the lunar surface.
You're listening, Greg Autry, author, along with Peter Navarro, of Red Moon Rising. I will have to admit, I'm very surprised that the first thing you were pointing out is a land grab as opposed to a position to fire weapons towards the U.S.
That's another issue that can happen, but the land grab is the first thing that's happening right now. It's better, frankly, to put the weapons closer in space at first, and that's happening. Russia's made some very scary noises about orbiting a nuclear anti-satellite system. China is certainly being aggressive in their militarization of space, and the moon is the ultimate high ground. So that is coming too. But it's both resources and strategic position.
And it's money. And it's money. Do we have money that we're committing enough to revitalize our space program? Are we going to be outspending? Our military is already decimated, and we're looking at what we're doing now, and it seems to be falling short on every level.
Yeah, frankly, it's both money, but it's also alacrity and just common sense to do things right. And as you've probably seen in our military, some people are tearing it apart, regardless of the amount of money you spend. If you put the wrong culture in there, you're going to fail. The good news is President Trump did a lot of great things in space, reestablishing the Space Council, setting up the Space Force, committing to the return to the moon. We just need to pick that mission back up with some sense of urgency and discipline and get it done.
I'm going to ask you, while the book is Red Moon Rising, focusing on the moon, we're already talking, of course, and have explorations towards Mars, plus minus Mars versus the moon, and of course the money spent is big. But what's your thought?
Yeah, the Mars does not have the strategic implications, either militarily or resource-wise, for the Earth that the moon does. So the moon's got to be target number one. It gives us a lot of learning and capability development to get and settle on Mars. At the same time, ambitious folks like Elon Musk want to go to Mars on their own, and NASA and the U.S. government should absolutely be supporting that rather than competing with it. It's going to be
Go ahead, sir.
It's going to be a world where the government, to accomplish more science and exploration and military objectives, is going to have a variety of commercial vendors, just like we do in ocean and air transportation here on Earth, you're going to be able to buy a ride to the moon or Mars from a variety of companies, and that's a better place for the U.S. to be in. It's the way we beat China, which is really the essence of the book.
And I was just getting ready to reemphasize that the full title of the book is Red Moon Rising, How America Will Beat China on the Final Frontier. Thumbnail, how do we beat China?
By leveraging our entrepreneurial and disruptive thinkers in our commercial environment in concert with our best-in-class governmental efforts. We're not going to beat them at a big socialized space program, because big socialized engineering programs is their superpower. So let's use ours, which is a competitive, dynamic market with crazy disruptive thinkers who come up with new ideas. That's how we beat them.
Well, I hear that, and I certainly agree with it. But also, when you mention disruptive thinkers, I think we've got already too many that are disrupting the wrong way.
Well, that's one of the costs of disruption, is it always goes both ways. And the U.S. is more failure tolerant and willing to listen to different voices, and that's what we have to do. So we've got a great group of traditional space companies that have incredible expertise and have skill working with the U.S. government, and then we've got this group of new thinkers who are going to try some things out. Some are going to be wrong. Some of them we think they're going to be wrong, and we're going to be wrong. They're going to be right. And that's how it plays out. And, frankly, if you go back to the railroads or anything else, it's been that public-private partnership.
Yeah.
But the private sector that drove the new ideas forward so the government could utilize them effectively.
That's a perfect example. Transcontinental Railroad and the two sides competing from each coast, and two businesses competing for it. Now,
absolutely.
I look back, and in fact, I was talking to someone the other day about Chuck Yeager, and of course, featured in the Thomas Wolfe book, The Right Stuff, in the beginning of our Gemini program, our astronaut program, and how far we've come, and yet now things are moving at a pardon the phrase, warp speed.
Well, they should be moving at warp speed, and they were, frankly, during the Trump administration. The good news is the Biden administration hasn't stopped anything, but again, there's not that sense of urgency that we need, and I'm really looking forward to President Trump coming and kicking it into warp speed.
That I would also like to see happen. Again, the title of the book is Red Moon Rising, How America Will Beat China on the Final Frontier. It is available now on Amazon, correct?
Absolutely.
Co-authored by Greg Autry and Peter Navarro, who's still behind cell bars at this point. We'll do it again in the future. I thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you so much.
You bet. By the way, there's a movie being promoted now called Fly Me to the Moon. It's really going to feed into a lot of conspiracy theories already. I haven't seen it, but I saw a clip of the preview, and it's basically faking the moon landing. A lot of folks think we never did land on the moon, and that's what this movie apparently is doing, because it's got guys hoisting supposed astronauts up by ropes and trying to act like they're bouncing around on the moon, and they're going to kind of CGI or something like. One guy said, I'm not going to do that. It's high my credibility. They're walking past all these Secret Service agents with dark glasses on, and the person tells them they'll kill you if you do. Okay, I'll go along with it. Yeah, everybody bends a little bit. Coming up, Senator Kennedy says this inflation trick is getting old.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
John Beal knows that right after a hailstorm, new roofing companies start popping up everywhere. But the Small Business Administration reports 96% of them go out of business within the first 5 years. So how good is that warranty? John Beal started in the roofing business, helping his granddad and his dad. Always offering the best roof, best price, best guarantee. John Beal Roofing, not some fly-by-the-night operation. Call my friend John, 1-800-NEW-ROOF, 1-800-NEW-ROOF.
The United States Deputy Sheriff's Association is a national nonprofit and the largest non-governmental provider of services to law enforcement. The USDSA assists city, county, state, and federal agencies with free safety equipment donations and officer survival training, along with cash donations to families of law enforcement officers who perished in the line of duty, a citizen awareness program, and more. For more information on United States Deputy Sheriff's Association, please visit usdeputy.org.
Hey, this is a great time to get fantastic deals at Ackerman Toyota, #1 volume dealer in the area. Why? Very simple. They want to make you happy. They'll come up with a deal that puts you in the driver's seat. You'll be smiling as you drive off the lot. You got a trade in? You're going to get top dollar from Ackerman. Looking for a premium used car or truck? Ackerman is the answer. Ackerman Toyota at Hampton and 44. AckermanToyota.com. Ackerman Toyota for life.
News, analysis, opinion.
USA, USA. That's a big game, man.
He's really losing control.
People in China have been nasty about people mowing each other down in the mall.
This is News Talk STL.
It is their responsibility.
He is a metastasizing agent.
We're all keeping a close eye on this.
Illegal immigration is crazy right now.
The United States is not being overrun.
News Talk STL.
It is a crisis at the border without question.
At newstalkstl.com.
My sponsor, McGuire Moving, has job openings for drivers and movers, offering competitive pay. You can be off every night if you want or on the road. You're off every other weekend. Full benefits, insurance, paid vacations. But McGuire is a very good company. So here's a very important requirement. You must excel in making customers happy. Full or part-time job? More information, go to McGuireMoving.com. Apply online at McGuireMoving.com/careers.
This is News Talk STL.
I'm gonna run away to duck gun carry, make camp where the land is bare. I'm gonna run away to duck gun carry, ain't no one gonna find me there. Ain't no one gonna find me there. Found trouble in the town I come from, left 6 months ago or so. I had to run from the man I wronged there.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
What you're doing is stimulating the market. You're pumping money into the economy. And Jay Powell's over here beavering away, trying to reduce inflation. And you're beavering away, trying to increase it by paying
that we're doing
an interest rate that is 100 basis points higher than you would have to pay. And the only way reason I can figure that y'all are doing that is to try to give the economy a sugar high 5 months before an election. Why else would anybody want to borrow at 5% when you can borrow at 4%?
That's an excellent question, Senator Kennedy of Louisiana. He was questioning Janet Yellen, our Treasury Secretary, who at one time had been also head of the Fed. And he nailed it. You guys are tinkering around with this all because of the election coming, and you're trying to make it clear to people, hey, we're gonna fix rates again for you. We're gonna make things better. You're gonna give them a sugar high and a promise of things yet to come, which is very solid with this administration. They're very good at making promises of what they will do. And some come true, one way or the other, and some are just at the edge, and some just, we never said that. Kennedy was asking Yellen, I recall in another meeting the other day, talking about how much that inflation under Biden cost Louisiana families. The average salary in the state of Louisiana is around $58,000. That sounds like a lot to a lot of folks, but then again, you keep looking at inflation and everything's going on. No, it's not. He pointed out, he said, these high prices caused by Bidenomics are here to stay, aren't they? He's not talking about the inflation rate, he's talking about the prices you're paying. He said that the cost of living in Louisiana right now is costing those families anywhere from $700, $900, $800 to $1,000 extra a month. If you had to, I don't care what let's say you're earning a very good salary. Even if you're earning, let's say, I'll give you $100K. You got some of it allocated, maybe some for saving, maybe some for doing different things, maybe a few family events from time to time. I mean, you want to enjoy life to some extent. You don't want to be logged and tracked and put on a treadmill like a mouse or something. But If I suddenly told you you're going to have to spend now, based on that income, another $1,500 a month for everything, that's going to change your budget up and what your plans are. So again, Kennedy had told Yellen in one of the last appearances, these high prices caused by Bidenomics are here to stay, aren't they? Her answer, I don't expect the level of prices to go down. Some prices will be higher than they were before the pandemic and will stay higher. Thank you, Bidenomics. Kennedy said, if you don't get a pay raise, his words, if you don't get a pay raise, you're screwed. He said, under Bidenomics, he asked this question. You don't think we need to get these prices down? You think it's okay that bacon's up 20% under Biden? Chicken's up 24%, coffee's up 30%, gas up 44%, used cars and trucks are up 24%. You don't think we need to get these prices down? People are getting really good, he said, at barely getting by because of Bidenomics. Monthly inflation costs have risen 18% since Biden took office. And as I said, with the median income of a Louisiana household just under $58,000, it's costing them almost another $100 to $1,200 plus a month, maybe as low as $800 if they barely get by. And yet they're going to stay and indicate, hey, there's going to be a cut. We're going to be offering an inflation cut on the Federal Reserve coming up. That'll be just in time for the election, and that's supposed to appease everyone, make everybody happy. This is the philosophy of Bidenomics and all of those who swarm around it and say, this is great. The American people are buying into this, and they accept it. I had a friend tell me yesterday, he said, my wife notified me that her student loan had suddenly been forgiven, something like 20+ thousand. Got a notice, your loan is wiped off. And he said, she is a Trump supporter all the way. And he said, I thought about telling her, that was done because of what Biden wanted to do. He said, I thought, no, I'm just going to let her enjoy the fact that it's wiped out. But she knows. The key is, will that make her now decide to go vote for Biden? Not likely at all. They continue doing all this pandering, constantly reaching out, trying to do what they can. And we'll get into that in detail before we wrap up this hour. They're going to put everything in front of you that looks appetizing and say, and we'll give you more. We got more in the back room if you put me back in office. As Kamala said the other day, give us 4 more years. We'll accomplish everything. I don't want to give you another day. I want you out now. You're destroying this country in so many ways. But those at the top, Biden, Harris, and the like, and the Hollywood elite, they'll be floating at the top. I know some other things that float. Just came to mind. I'll let you figure that one out. But you also have some of these useful idiots around them that are saying, well, we got to find a way to, push more of the green agenda. And one thing, if folks can't really get into an electric car right now, then maybe what we need to do, I want you to listen to this. This is supposedly a learned person. It's another yuppie. It's another yuppie that just comes forward and says, I think what we should do, if you don't have public transit in your area and you can't get into electric cars, we can't get more cars off the road that way, then maybe this will be the answer.
So this is why we talk about mobility, because actually, if you can get people to share a car, you can take out, a lot of cars in the streets. I think it's Singapore where they looked how they could bring it down to about 40% of the cars if we would use them smarter. And the interesting thing about technology is that it makes sharing easy and fun and not annoying. It used to be a little bit difficult to share. You would have to go in somewhere in the other end of town and get a key. And that's not what you want to do if you want to take your car. But if you can just use your neighbor's car because you have a smartphone and an app and you don't even need to know the neighbor to get into his car, or if you can find ways of carpooling, and this is what technology helps you do. It's much easier and much more fun to share, and you start then thinking completely different about transport and traffic. And I think it's very important that we do not just try to fix yesterday's paradigm, but think about how do we want a city to move.
How do we want a city to move? We want you to move out of the city. That's part of the World Economic Forum, one of the speakers, a young global leader, saying if we just get more people to share, it's fun to share. They're not going where I want to go, or they're going to go somewhere else. Listen, young global leader, there was a time we were car sharing in this country, like people on the side of the road hitchhiking. Can you share your car with me for a few miles or your truck? And now she says it's so much easier now. You can simply get an app and find out who wants to share a car and go somewhere. Isn't that fun? Doesn't it sound joyful? And you don't have to go somewhere to get the key. You have an access to get into it. May I say something to you that you might not know? Car thieves already know how to get in your car, and they're going to share your car. This is the idiocy of the thinking that we have at a World Economic Forum, that someone like this surfaces and says, well, one of the things we could do, look at Singapore. We get 40% of the cars off the road if people would share more, and they have. Or you can be in one of those taxis that are pulled by a man going around the city for a while, providing him a wage to some extent. But sharing a car with someone you have no idea who they are, we're not talking about getting on a train or a plane with people you don't know who they are, but we're talking about getting into a car. Already we have some rideshare cases. One just broke again the other day where a young girl is waiting on a ride share to show up. I'm not going to bother using the name of the company because I don't want to put the blame on them, but they're going to be facing some legal suits because of it. The driver sees the girl standing there, and he kind of pulls up. It's a nice-looking car. She opens the door, and he says, you so-and-so? And he said, yep. So she closes the door, and he starts driving the opposite direction. She said, no, that's not where I want to go. And then she tries to get out. The doors are locked from inside. She can't get out. Yeah, ride sharing can be a lot of fun. But as I mentioned earlier, the Biden White House is always pandering to get votes. The student loan forgiveness that I mentioned earlier. And all the other empty promises they'll put in front of you. Give us 4 more years. But Americans are more than fed up with this at this point. That story when we continue.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
You want to give someone something which they will really enjoy? Give them a Cafe Napoli gift card. You pick the amount, and they pick which of the Cafe Napolis they want to visit. Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Cafe Napoli in Town and Country, Napoli 3 on the streets of St. Charles, or right next door, Napoli C. The Napoli gift card. It's the perfect gift for anyone or your entire office. Cafe Napoli. Cafe Napoli.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
What's crazy is the fact that people say that the Republicans pander to the black community, but the Democrats are the ones telling you, you need us. We're going to support you. Here's this handout, but it's just enough to barely make it. Like, you're not going to ball out, but you'll always need them. The Republican Party is saying, you don't need us. You got this. You're capable of anything. This is America. Make it happen. See, that's why people don't want to hear what I have to say, because what I'm going to say is do the work. Stop waiting for a handout. Reparations ain't never coming. And you know what's even crazier is letting the 10 million plus illegal immigrants that are coming over here and taking all of the American jobs. Pretty soon they're not going to need the black vote because they're letting in their voters that are going to vote to have handouts and be taken care of like they already are. So you go ahead and enjoy the pandering from the Democrats, black community, LGBTQ community, people of color, all of y'all, yes, enjoy it because it's going to end soon.
That is a young American expressing the truth. And that's a far cry from ride sharing is fun. She's saying this pandering and all these handouts are going to come to an end. And she reemphasized something I've said repeatedly. The black vote is not going to be that important to the Democrats in a short period of time because of the illegals they've let into the country. Many of them, majority, would be Hispanic. Latino. And the black voter will be diminished with the Democrat plan. At some point, they'll begin to wake up and see it, just as she's speaking. But for right now, they're still pandering to them and saying, you need us, you need us. No, in this country, they really should not need you unless you put them in a position where they have to. And it is true in this country that you can make it on your own if you have the opportunity. I've told you before repeatedly, numerous times I've been to Vegas, either in one of these share ride cars or with a cab driver, and often or not, they are from another country originally, but they are now Americans. Some from Nigeria, some from Thailand, some from Croatia, Bosnia, and they all talk about how good it is to be in this country. The freedoms I have. I can make my own job. I can make decisions for me and my family. Just give them an opportunity. But the Democrat philosophy has been, you need us. You can't accomplish anything on your own. I do remind you that we have the June 25th, next Tuesday, at St. Charles Funny Bone, Streets of St. Charles, Saving America 2024. Presentation with the Heritage Foundation on the economy and the courts. And then 2 days later will be the first presidential debate carried by CNN. We will be carrying it here on the program right after this show airs on that Thursday night. And we will be holding a watch party, a debate watch party at Johnny's Hideout. Invite you to come out and do that. And in case you missed me pointing out earlier, they did a coin toss today to decide who gets to sit where and who has the last word. The Biden team selected tails. I'd never accept tails, but so they did. Says a lot, I think. That's my thought. And it ends up tails. And they said, well, we want to choose where we sit first. So as you look at the screen, Biden will be on your right, and on your left would be Donald Trump. They chose they could do that, or they could choose who speaks last. And they chose where they sit on the stage. So Trump gets to go last in that debate. Oh, it's going to be a hoot. Coming up, the increasing threat of terrorism inside our nation. And remember our pledge, one nation under God.
You can hear podcasts of this program at Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook.
If you like premium cigars and spirits, take my advice. Check out Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield. The Lit Cigar owners just got back from a major convention in Vegas, and now every day, Lit is getting shipments of special cigars that will certainly amaze you. Check the Lit Cigar Facebook, staying on top of special events. Also, Lit can host a private event for you, your friends, your business. LitSTL.com. LitSTL.com. Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield.
News, analysis, opinion.
USA, USA. That's a big game, man.
She's really losing control. People in China didn't ask me about people mowing each other down in a mall.
This is News Talk STL.
It is their responsibility.
He is a metastasizing agent.
We're all keeping a close eye on this. Illegal immigration is crazy right now. This United States is not being overrun.
News Talk STL.
It is a crisis at the border without question.
At newstalkstl.com. Talk radio made in St. Louis.
Very excited for what you guys are doing for the St. Louis community.
For St. Louis.
Relevant local talk.
Saying what we are thinking.
This is News Talk STL.
You guys are awesome. I love you. And it's a tremendous honor to be on the station.
News, analysis, and opinion.
Thanks for us covering the local angle.
People, this is America.
We better open our eyes.
Really local, really good.
News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1 and newstalkstl.com.
Are you thinking about buying medicine online? A search for online pharmacies yields more than 20 million results. But which ones can you trust? Medicines bought from unlicensed online pharmacies can be dangerous. You may get a fake drug, your condition may get worse, or you may experience a bad reaction. Don't put your health at risk. To learn how to find an online pharmacy that's safe and legal, visit fda.gov/BeSafeRx. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Tony Colombo here, reminding you to join us for the Bluff City Outdoors radio show and podcast, where we talk fishing, hunting, camping, and everything else involving the great outdoors. Brought to you by Bluff City Outdoors in Alton. The Bluff City Outdoors Show, Saturdays at 11 a.m. right here on News Talk STL.
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
Hey, it's Katie, reminding you to subscribe to our show podcast so you never miss anything that happens here at News Talk STL. Get our podcasts every day on the show pages at newstalkstl.com, or just subscribe to your favorite shows on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, or anywhere else you get your podcasts.
I drive my bus in a busy city. That's why road safety is so important to me. I know that I must slow down and be extra careful when I make a wide turn. Buses need more room than cars. Everyone can help keep our roads safe. Next time you're driving, remember to give buses plenty of time and space to finish turning before driving ahead. Let's all plan to share the road safely. Learn how at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Come join the conversation. All you have to do is say,
Hey Alexa, play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's comforting to know conservative values haven't been abandoned everywhere.
The far left wants to destroy conservative values in America.
This is News Talk STL. Welcome home.
Hey, it's Nick Schroer. To preserve this nation, to preserve the experiment in liberty that our founders envisioned, we must take a stand and fight. Join me Sunday nights at 8 p.m. only on News Talk STL.
Stand and Fight with Nick Schroer. Brought to you by Missouri Wild Alchemy at MissouriWild.com. This is News Talk STL.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
When Secretary Blinken was recently here in Israel, we had a candid conversation. I said I deeply appreciated the support the U.S. has given Israel from the beginning of the war. But I also said something else. I said it's inconceivable that in the past few months, the administration has been withholding weapons and ammunition to Israel. Israel, America's closest ally, fighting for its life, fighting against Iran and our other common enemies. Secretary Blinken assured me that the administration is working day and night to remove these bottlenecks. I certainly hope that's the case. It should be the case. During World War II, Churchill told the United States, give us the tools, we'll do the job. And I say, give us the tools and we'll finish the job a lot faster.
Obviously they would. Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, again complaining and stating the U.S., despite Joe Biden claiming, oh, we're all with you, we're going to be there for you, you can count on us. They cannot count on us. We were purposely withholding some weapons they said they needed. And you know why? You know why? Because Biden is still trying to appease the woke crowd within his party, those who support what Hamas did. I've yet to hear a single so-called Palestinian supporter in the Congress condemn what Hamas did. Oh, they would shout that Palestine is an issue, it needs to be resolved, they need their own state, blah, 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 blah. Have you heard one of them say what Hamas did was atrocious and Hamas should be wiped out for what they did? No, not one. Rashida Tlaib, the rest of the squad, mum's the word. The only good thing about it is that each one of them, as all members of Congress in the House, are up for re-election this time. But unfortunately, they have enough useful idiots around them that will keep them in office for many of them. Thanks for joining us. Here we are, hour number 2 of Larry Connors USA. We're here every Monday through Friday for you from 6 to 8 p.m. And when we're on the air, we are streaming video. You can watch the program. You go to News Talk STL, Rumble, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Larry Connors USA, Rumble, Facebook, Twitter. If you miss anything, it goes up as a podcast when we finish at LarryConnorsUSA.com or Larry Connors USA Facebook. And I appreciate you watching, adding a like, push that like button. It just infuriates the left the more the likes they see, and it gets the big tech companies say, we better not touch these guys. So push the like button and also push the share button. Send it on to others and share with them. Well, the situation we're getting now, some of the latest word coming out, and according to Wall Street Journal using some of its sources, out of the 120-plus hostages still being held by Hamas, and this is apparently based on intel that they got by the 4 they rescued a couple weekends ago. There might be 50 of those hostages they're still holding that are alive. They're just holding the bodies of the others, using dead people to keep them from their relatives for a proper burial, and acting like you still want to do everything you can to pressure Netanyahu to back off. You want your son, you want your daughter back, your mother, your father, and they might already be dead. And it is possible in the attacks upon Gaza, going into the Hamas tunnels, and since they often will hide under baby beds and under hospitals, it's extremely possible that the Israeli forces killed some of the hostages. So when you hear them complain, those who want to proclaim that Hamas and PLO are good and that the Israelis are indiscriminately killing civilians, they may have killed Israeli citizens. They certainly had no plan to do that. But in the meantime, you got the battle on the southern part of Israel, where Gaza is located, dealing with Hamas and trying to root them out. And we talked about this the other day. The action is beginning to step up on the northern part of Israel, on the frontier with Lebanon, and that is because Hezbollah is stepping in.
Hezbollah's leader has issued a threat to Israel, saying if a, quote, total war is launched against the terror group, quote, no place in Israel will be safe from the group's weapons. He said the Jewish state must prepare for attacks from the ground, air, and sea, saying Hezbollah will fight with, quote, no rules and no ceiling.
They began to lob missiles and rockets and drones into northern Israel on a regular basis, and they've escalated this in recent weeks. And as a result of that, Israelis have been killed, and more than 60,000 Israelis have had to leave their cities, villages, homes. They're in hotels, they're further in the south, they're somewhere else. It's a situation that cannot continue indefinitely. Israel cannot allow Hezbollah to turn the north of Israel, the Galilee, the Golan, into an open, a no-go zone.
And that's what they're trying to do. The speaker you were hearing was Clifford May. He's the founder of Defense of Democracies. And you heard Benjamin Netanyahu, who began this hour, talking about how the U.S. is stepping back and not doing what it said it would do. And as a result of that, you know what the reaction is from the Biden administration? Not just wagging their finger, but absolutely getting incensed where they decide, we will cut off communications with Israel. Here's what happened. The U.S. envoy told Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu after he made those public comments that the U.S. is withholding weapons and ammunitions, he said, your statement is unproductive, more importantly, completely untrue. That same meeting, the U.S. ambassador to Israel reiterated to Netanyahu, your comments are not correct, walking through all the arms the U.S. has transferred to Israel in recent months. Spokesman for the U.S. Embassy in Israel confirmed that conversation they had with Netanyahu and reiterated that, quote, with the exception of ongoing discussion regarding large diameter munitions, other items are either delivered or in the process of being delivered or in the normal review process. Now, what does that mean? You're going to decide that they really need the weapons or not? That's not supporting Israel. The large diameter weapons supposedly saying, well, you have something this big, you'll kill a lot of civilians. Israel's maintained that we can actually save more civilians. Now, again, not knowing specifics of the weapons, I can't give you a clear answer, but I'm going to side with Israel simply because of the way the Biden administration has been constantly. And I told you, those of you who listen, on October 8th, when Biden made a statement very declarative, we stand with Israel, I said then, you watch over the next days. They are this close together. A day later, 2 days later, 3 days later, it just keeps stretching out. That's exactly what they've been doing, moving farther and farther away. Victor Davis Hanson, very learned man with the Hoover Institute, says all of this that we're seeing right now is carried forward from the Obama administration as to what the Obama administration was trying to put into effect when they were pushing Iran should get nuclear weapons. Although Obama said they will not get one on my watch. He was putting together a deal in his last year as president. Yeah, they were not going to get one on your watch, but you were going to make it possible for them to have it. Victor Davis Hanson.
They cooked up this idea that they were going to empower an Iranian, Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthi axis, and this was going to be the Persian Shia counterbalance to Israel and the moderate Gulf regime. So they trashed Saudi Arabia, they trashed Israel, they built up this axis, and they called it creative tension. And then we could vacate the Middle East and then play one side off against the other, completely oblivious that our friends in the Gulf were far better than the Iranians, of course, and Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. But this is the most dangerous time in our lifetime, Sean, all the way until Inauguration Day, because Putin sees he's trying to get nuclear proxies in Iran and North Korea to do what he thinks we're doing in Ukraine.
He's exactly right. It's one of the most dangerous times. And, of course, he was appearing with Sean Hannity. But, again, once Netanyahu spoke out and said, we're not getting what you said you would do, the U.S. reaction from the Biden White House, we will punish him. We will punish him. And, in fact, they decided to make it clear, and I'm quoting one U.S. official, there are consequences for pulling such stunts. Angry that Netanyahu would speak out to save his people. And so they had been planning on having a U.S.-Israel meeting, at least virtually, for today, the White House has said, no, not going to do it. That shows you leadership. The Biden administration's latest efforts, of course, to win votes is to assure you that open borders are not a threat to U.S. security.
We want to make sure that we're securing the border. We want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to do that. And we also want to make sure that we have a fair and just system. And that is something that the president continues to live by.
Yeah, he lives by a fair and just system, which means let more and more illegals into our country. And she would dare stand there and say to the American people, this president's doing everything he can to secure the border. No, he's not. From the moment he got into office, he started by executive order canceling the Remain in Mexico policy Trump had in place. And has ever since said, I don't have executive order to close the border. You had executive order to open it. You got executive order to, and in fact, he did do the other day. He did, by executive order, say we're going to restrict how many come across. If he had done that the first of his administration, we wouldn't have had maybe 12, 15, 20 million illegals come in. And more are coming. There is still no really restriction. They surpass a certain number per day, the border's supposed to be closed. They continue surpassing it, and they're not closing the border. It's another lie, and it's built upon trying to let the American people know, I'm taking care of you. Uncle Joe is here. Superman cape and all. And, of course, then he comes up with the amnesty program the other day for DACA, the Dreamers program. These are young people that were brought here when they were children, brought by their parents. They came in the country illegally. And I've always had a hard time on saying how we deal with this because they had no saying on where they were going to go. And now you're going to deport those kids that have grown up in the U.S. They may not even speak the native language of the country their parents brought them from. And you want to put them back in the middle of that country when they have no contacts, anything. I have a very difficult time accepting that. There are ways I will accept it, that if a DACA, a dreamer, violates law, then you are immediately deported. Not just jailed, you are deported. But again, on the basis of what the Biden administration is trying to do is push that this general amnesty will be good for our nation. And voters, are you watching me?
How do you respond to Republicans who say this particular move is just an election year stunt?
Look, I'm not here to talk about election year. That's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about the president's policy and why he's doing this, because we have a broken immigration system. The president did this on his first day when he put forth a comprehensive immigration system.
And when it comes to the new executive actions today on immigration, can you just talk us through why now? Why not earlier?
So look, and I said this a little bit, and I'll say it again, which is, and we say this, our immigration system is broken. It has been for some decades. The president wants to have a comprehensive legislative fix. That's the process that we actually want to take, and that's why he did on day one.
No, he didn't. He did not do it on day one. He opened the border. That did not solve our immigration issue. There's a big picture here. There's a big picture as to these who are already in the country. What do we do about them? And they've been here before Biden got here. What are we going to do about them? Well, to that extent, we'll just have to figure it out as we move forward. But at this point, what they have proposed is not going to be effective. They have, at this time, moved forward and stated that now the Biden amnesty program will take care of everything. And it's not an election ploy. It's not an election ploy. I want you to understand, we're not doing it for votes. Well, on one hand, that stands up if these folks, the DACA dreamers, are not registered to vote, but they've been in the country long enough, and some born here, they do have the right to vote. But then again, they can't square it with mass amnesty for illegals when, as even CBS acknowledges in one report, most Americans are against mass criminal, illegal alien deportations anyway.
And yet, Tom, a lot of voters seem to think it's not the smart thing to do. CBS News polling recently found that 62% of Americans are in favor of a national program to deport all undocumented immigrants, all 11 million of them. So how much support do you think there would be for the White House plan that was announced today?
I'd love to sit down with your polling team and show them how they've gotten this wrong.
Yeah, Tom Perez, Biden administrator, top Democrat, strategist. Many Americans are for mass deportation of all illegals. If you're looking at those who've come across during the Biden years, I'm not going to necessarily say no, but I will ask how you're going to make it happen. How can you do it? And then you move into the DACA program, which he granted this mass amnesty. How are you going to go into families and rip them apart when they were kids when they were brought here? They had no say in where they were going. You have to be realistic. I do not want illegals in our country. And I believe it endangers our country, much less puts additional strain upon resources intended for Americans. But it's not a matter of just having sympathy that I'm expressing to you. It's a matter of realistically, how would you do it? I don't think anybody has really come up with a solid answer for that, except my suggestion that might work. If they're here illegally and they commit a crime, their butt is out of here immediately. Now that I will back each and every day. And of course, the other thing is, how many have come across the border not looking for a new job and a better home, but they came here to cause chaos, even terrorism, inside our borders, and Biden allowed it. We're going to look at that in more detail. Lock and load, ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
Question: do you know what vermiculite is? It is an insulation in the attics of hundreds of thousands of homes and public buildings. Looks like kitty litter, but often contains asbestos. Wellington Environmental is the largest company in the Midwest that can remove that hazard for you. Wellington has what is called the General, a powerful industrial vacuum that can suck vermiculite out of the attic. Hang on, there's something else you should know. Many of you might qualify for up to a $4,000 rebate. You should at least contact Wellington to see if you qualify. And here's something else. Wellington arrives at the time they give you, not sometime within 4 hours. 314-644-4930. 644-4930. WellingtonSTL.com. WellingtonSTL.com. Wellington Environmental. Your world cleaner, better, safer. Be well with Wellington.
Talk radio made in St. Louis.
Very excited for what you guys are doing for the St. Louis community.
For St. Louis. Relevant local talk.
Saying what we are thinking.
This is News Talk STL.
No, you guys are awesome. I love you. And it's a tremendous honor to be on the station.
News, analysis, and opinion.
Thanks for us covering the local angle.
Come on, people. This is America.
We better open our eyes.
Really local, really good.
News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1 and newstalkstl.com.
I have a personal story about why I trust McGuire Moving and Storage. A relative needed to escape an unhealthy relationship. Josh, Christine, and the McGuire team were understanding, even comforting. That's why I'm honored to endorse McGuire. Since 1935, McGuire's been moving and caring for families. So, moving a home, office, local, or long distance, McGuireMoving.com. McGuireMoving.com.
My name is Todd Showalter, and I'm announcing The Right Mind Show is officially running Saturday nights at 5. I'll now open the floor for questions.
Is The Right Mind Show funny at all?
No comment. Next question. Yeah, you, different reporter with the same voice.
Your co-host is very cute.
Not a question. I've got time for one more.
Do you do any impressions on The Right Mind Show?
Yeah, absolutely. Here's Joe Biden getting out of bed.
The Right Mind Show with Todd Showalter. Saturday afternoons at 5 on News Talk STL.
Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, now open in the district of Chesterfield Valley. Napoli has the only coal-fired pizza oven. That means an incredible taste you cannot get anywhere else. So enjoy a unique pizza at Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the district. And then walk a few doors down and enjoy premium cigars and drinks at Lit Cigar Lounge. There's a perfect way to end the evening. Napoli Pizza followed by Lit Cigar Lounge. A winning combination.
This is News Talk STL.
Had me, girl, taught me those things a young man should know. Down on my knees and begging I plead to learn a little bit more. Oh, that woman taught me to pray. I saw heaven every day. All she could.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
We are in a period where a number of factors are combining to make a terrorist attack on the homeland far more likely than it perhaps had been. And, you know, you can think of it almost in a criminal context, means, motive, and opportunity, right? In terms of means, the world has gotten a lot smaller even since 9/11. You've gotten drones. The interconnectivity of the internet is more ubiquitous into areas that maybe didn't have that connectivity. You can get an uplink using, for instance, something like the Elon Musk satellites. You know, you can get online from the mountains of the Hindu Kush. You've got AI capabilities. You've had all that time to develop capabilities since 9/11 if you are still in the business. So I would argue that in terms of means, capabilities have only grown.
The capabilities of the terrorists attacking our nation, and even from within inside, have increased. It is as simple as that. It is as threatening as that. It is as dangerous as that simple statement. You were listening then to Paul Morrow, a security expert. And, of course, he's, in one hand, parroting what we've already heard from the FBI and even the CIA. Michael Morrell and Graham Allison write that there are striking echoes of the run-up to 9/11, including warnings about Osama bin Laden and al-Qaeda and by then CIA Director George Tenet. And now similar warnings are popping up from FBI Director Christopher Wray and American General Eric Kurilla, commander of CENTCOM, which includes the Middle East. I'm looking at this piece by Axios pointing out U.S. facing serious threat of terror attack. That's including an expert, former CIA chief, and more. And all of them are alarmed by these repeated warnings. They also add that despite the repeated warnings from national security officials and the experts, they think most of the public is asleep at the wheel. I would say that this administration is asleep at the wheel. They're just absolutely ignoring what's in front of them. And I'll have to raise this question, this issue. I do not know how Christopher Wray, being in his position as head of the FBI, can testify in front of Congress that we are under a serious potential threat on our U.S. soil and stay in the job. Why he doesn't resign? I would not want to be on the watch when it happens. Ray, if you recall, not long ago, once again testified in front of Congress with a stark warning, talking to the House Appropriations Committee back in April. He said we need all the tools, the people, the resources required to tackle these threats and keep Americans safe. Now, this came after, of course, October 7th, that happened in Israel. And he said our most immediate concern has been the safety of Americans because we have a concern that individuals or small groups will draw twisted inspiration from the events in the Middle East and carry out attacks at home. And, of course, just recently we had some members of ISIS located. They were let into the country. They came across the border. They were checked at the border. And then didn't have anything on them because they're not fully vetting them. Some cases you can't fully vet them. Their towns, whatever their birthplace might have been, or birth papers have all been destroyed in previous actions. Only later did we learn that they might not just be ISIS members of the past, but active still. And supposedly we rounded up all the ones that came in at that point. But I would not go to sleep at night believing that is true. I'll remind you how they will act out. You recall the event recently at the Crocus City Concert Hall outside of Moscow, killing more than 140? That was ISIS-K attacking inside Russia. Now, I don't know how they got inside Russia, but I know Russia does not have an open border. So if we have an open border, do you not think they would take the opportunity to come here? And back to Paul Morrow, a security expert, the motives are right in front of them.
You only have to look to what's going on in the Middle East right now, wherever your thoughts are, whatever your thoughts are on Gaza, whatever you come down on, whatever side you come down on, if any, there's no denying that the people who would like to perpetrate a terrorist attack inside the American homeland are going to look at what's going on there and see a motive without question, on top of all the other motives that they very well may have been harboring all along here. And as the article mentions, one of the things that irks the Iranians, who are state funders of terrorism and are the umbrella over a number of the groups that concern us, is the killing of Soleimani and that drone attack. So, you know, when you consider that, when you consider a resurgent Russia that is nuclear capable and that we are increasingly at loggerheads with, and all that's going on in that area of the world, it's not hard to see motives all over the place.
They could just dream them up. They just want to kill Americans. That's enough motive. They want to destabilize our government. And, of course, doing it now during the election season, perfect opportunity. The other day I had Dr. Rick Lehman on, U.S. Center for Sports Medicine. He's going to be at the Paris Olympics. He said one of the things we're obviously on heightened concern about is anytime you're going to have a big national media attention draw event like the Olympics, you have to worry about terrorism. He said they're doing everything they can in Paris to prepare for it, but no one knows if it's ever going to be enough. And then again, if ISIS or some of these groups think, you know, they've got so much concentration of law enforcement around the games, let's hit something else where it would be more vulnerable. If they want to do it, they can in numerous ways. And again, Paul Morrow, who is an expert on security and now retired New York Police Department inspector, said they will have opportunities.
And then there is opportunity. And I don't have to look any further than the southern border. We've let 10 to 20 million illegals into the country with little or no vetting. It's a canard to think that they're all just from small towns in Mexico or Bolivia or Ecuador or something. We're seeing a wave of migrant-related crime developing now. But you would have to be a fool not to take advantage of the ability to insert assets seamlessly and with no friction into the American homeland through the southern border. You would have to be a fool not to take advantage of that if you're sitting where Iran is, where China is, where Russia is.
They'll take advantage of anything and everything. We have documented hundreds of Chinese military-age men coming across our border. Often at night, they get caught on night scope cameras or sometimes the farmers' game cameras they have set out around their property. They're not even trying to go through the so-called ports of entry where they'll just be given a parole paper, take their name, parole paper. You're free to roam about the country till you have parole hearing and deciding about your asylum for the next 6 to 8 years. We won't have a hearing before then. What do we have to do to wake up this administration? I raised the question I raised the other day. How many American lives do we have to lose before we realize this has been a bad, bad decision? I don't want harm to come to President Biden, nor the vice president, nor any Democrat leader. But they could be among the first targets as well. You think then they'd say, those who survived, that was a stupid idea. Insanely stupid. And Morales is right. Any terrorist leader says, hey, it's easy to get in the U.S. Can't get on the fly list, can't fly in, but we can get to Mexico and walk right across. Coming up, a doctor in Congress says, let's not forget what COVID did to America.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
John Beal knows that new roofing companies can look big and trustworthy on the internet, but the fact is 96% of new roofing companies go out of business within the first 5 years. John Beal has a reputation for excellence, reliability, plus lowest cost, best roof, best guarantee. Those here today, gone tomorrow roofers, they can't match John Beal. For home or business, trust my friend John. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF.
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811, brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
Have you seen the 2024 Toyota RAV4? Boy, that's an outstanding vehicle, and Ackerman Toyota has one just for you at the best price. Ackerman is the #1 volume Toyota dealer in the area. Want a Camry? Maybe you want something bigger. A Toyota crossover. All the performance of an SUV, but a more compact size. Ackerman Toyota at Hampton and 44. AckermanToyota.com. Ackerman Toyota for life.
The United States Deputy Sheriff's Association is a national nonprofit and the largest non-governmental provider of services to law enforcement. The USDSA assists city, county, state, and federal agencies with free safety equipment donations and officer survival training, along with cash donations to families of law enforcement officers who perished in the line of duty, a citizen awareness program, and more. For more information on United States Deputy Sheriff's Association, please visit usdeputy.org.
If you like premium cigars and spirits, take my advice. Check out Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield. The Lit cigar owners just got back from a major convention in Vegas, and now every day, Lit is getting shipments of special cigars that will certainly amaze you. Check the Lit Cigar Facebook, staying on top of special events. Also, Lit can host a private event for you, your friends, your business. LitSTL.com. LitSTL.com, Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield.
This is News Talk STL.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
I want to point out that I'm probably the only member of Congress that actually treated patients during the pandemic from the very beginning to the very end of the pandemic, during night shifts in the ER. Thousands of patients during that time. In 2020, I was censored. My medical license was threatened because I disagreed with bureaucrats, literally taken off the internet. As a person who is treating patients with leading-edge technologies, developing theories, but doing my very best, but being censored by the United States government, for the first time stepping in and taking the place of medical professionals as the experts in healthcare. Any dissent surrounding COVID-19 treatments, mask mandates, and any public policy surrounding the pandemic was immediately labeled as anti-science. Despite my education and my training and my experience, my opinions were relegated to conspiracy and misinformation by so-called healthcare experts who had never treated a patient throughout the entire pandemic. Dr. Fauci, did you ever treat a patient for COVID during the pandemic?
I was part of a team that was at the NIH that took care. We didn't take care of many of them.
Okay, so not hands-on. Got it. But I'm being told by bureaucrats what's right and wrong. And what's funny is everything I was censored on, I was proven to be right. Pretty crazy, isn't it?
Crazy and factual and wrong. That's Dr. Rich McCormick, congressman from Georgia, decorated veteran, emergency room physician. On the panel when Dr. Fauci was in front of it the other day, and they're trying to get to the bottom of the origins of COVID and all the lies that were pushed onto the American people. And were you among those who got censored? Were you among those who were threatened with your job if you didn't get the jab or do exactly as everyone said? Are you one of the ones that when they put the 6-foot marks on the floor when you queued up to buy groceries or wherever you were going, finally, you got to stay in that circle till it's your turn to advance forward? And now we're told those circles were just concocted out of thin air. They had no science to them. And yet all the time we were being told, follow the science, follow the science, follow the science. And I, Dr. Fake, I am a scientist, and I know what I'm speaking of. I wonder how many patients Dr. McCormick, congressman of Georgia, saved because he stuck to what he thought should be done at that time. But we know that many patients, once they went into a hospital, they did not come out. I had a relative, good 15 years younger than me, went in, stayed one night. They sent him home. Everything's good. He collapses in the shower. They take him back. The second night, they decided to move him to the critical stage area, but yet he wasn't in any intensive care need, but that's where they moved him at that point because they had beds there and they could keep a closer watch on him. But he did not survive that night. The attitude and format at that time, the protocol for the most part was keep them flat on their back. That should help them. If you've ever had any kind of breathing problem and you're flat on your back, you don't breathe that easily. It's tougher. If you're in a somewhat prone position, maybe 45 degrees or 40 anyway, it makes it a little easier for you. But then when they couldn't breathe, well, then the next thing is, well, let's put them on a mask and just start covering their face entirely. That's what they did to him, and he did not survive it. Now, would he have survived if they had not done that to him? I don't know. But now many have recognized that was the worst thing to do, is put folks flat on their back. And don't forget how they were also trying to force families to send their kids in for shots that were still at experimental stage. Experimental meant that the drug companies couldn't be sued if any harm came to your kid or their offspring. Now, again, in the beginning of COVID, it was a frightening, chaotic time. I will grant a lot of allowances and grace for how things were handled at that point. But we didn't flatten the curve, and in fact, what we did was extend government authority and control. And then you had the social media companies jumping in, as you were listening to Congressman Dr. Rich McCormick saying, I got canceled off YouTube. They claimed everything I put up was false. And I'm a doctor. I know. No, you really don't, doctor. You're just pushing conspiracy theories. That was their attitude. And we're seeing the same thing happen with our children right now. LGBTQ activists, and I mean the activists, not many inside the LGBTQ community, but these who are trying to put everybody on their way of life or else. I'm reading a piece by Chad Felix Green with The Federalist. He said, in 1998, I was outed as gay. 1998, I was outed as gay to my father by school administrators. Late in the afternoon, I got a call on the intercom to go to the principal's office. My heart sank. I left the class, everybody watching me. And my paranoia was right. He said that day would change my life forever as I sat at the end of a large oval table, school administrators, a police officer, and my father at the other end, listening to them discuss my most private secret only years before. He says that's why some of those of us who grew up to become LGBT activists and politicians have been adamant about preventing schools from repeating this behavior known as outing. California State Senator Weiner announced on June 13th, we passed a new law, ethical legislation to ban forced outing policies and ensure trans youth can decide for themselves. A fellow Democrat who introduced the bill recounted her experience of being outed. But even the writer of this article says, looking back, the school did the right thing, even if they did it in a clumsy way. He said, at the meeting, I was required to attend counseling, removed from school for a week. He said, but most of the argument comes from the left-wing LGBTQ view, that parents are inherently dangerous to their children, and the school is the only safe place for them to be themselves. His main point is, if you feel that you're no longer a boy, you're a girl, when you get to school, you're going to change your outfit, put on lipstick, and pose as a girl throughout the school day, but at the end of the day, you'll take it all off and go home, and the school won't tell your parents. He said that's wrong for the administration to take that attitude, keeping information from the parents. And he admits, even though I got called out very in a clumsy way in 1998, he said it still is not to be ignored now. The school should not be keeping such information from parents. You can look it up yourself. The article is on The Federalist. He said, yes, parents should know if their child is gay. Because otherwise, if you think only the school is going to be your safe place, well, we know then that the school is going to take advantage of it and become the new parent. I still don't have an answer for the story I raised the other day, also in a commentary, about a teacher who took leave of classes on one day, claiming to be sick, but was not really sick, took a student to an abortion clinic to get an abortion. The name of the child being withheld for obvious reasons. Never have heard the teacher's name or gender. And I still have the question, did that teacher impregnate that student and then went to the abortion clinic to get rid of the evidence that they had had improper sex with the student? Still no answer on that, because they like to hide things. Now, the Biden White House continues to claim all the things you see Biden doing, stumbling, misstepping, going the wrong direction, what you see with your own eyes, you don't really see. In fact, the White House will tell you what you saw.
I think you're right. I think there is so much misinformation, disinformation, as we've been talking about. You talked about the video of the president wandering, and it's not true, right? The president wasn't wandering. He was talking to a parachuter that was right in front of him. And what you saw is the Republican Party really manipulating what was being said and what was being seen by the American people. That's also very insulting to the folks the viewers who are watching it. And so we believe we have to call that out. We've been calling it cheap fakes. That is something that came directly from the media outlets and calling it that, the fact checkers and calling it that. And so we're certainly going to be really clear about that as well.
Karine Jean-Pierre saying again, we will tell you what you're seeing. This is the video clip, of course, that showed members of the G7 standing together as paratroopers are landing, and one of them lands right within feet in front of them, truly in front of them, and then beginning to pull up his chute and everything and pack it away. And they're all applauding. Biden just in a robotic move turns to his left and starts walking away. So the paratrooper was right in front of him, but she said he was talking to a paratrooper who was in front of him. Well, there was one right in front of him. He saw another one, and he starts over there. I'm sure there was another paratrooper. It does not mean he was going over to speak to him. He just zoned out. And they weren't supposed to leave that area at that time. And the Italian prime minister, I believe, or Secretary of State reached out and grabbed him and turned him back. Then they all huddled around him to pose for a picture. No, we saw that. Same thing with the Obama-Biden appearance in Hollywood. They stand up, the meeting is over. I mean, the event is over. Biden's kind of waving and nodding to people, and then he just drops his arms by his side, not moving. Obama to his left is still gesturing to everyone, and the curtain's getting ready to come down, and he realizes Joe is stuck. So Obama takes his right hand, places it upon the left wrist of Joe Biden like he would a child, and pulls him toward him and turns him, and then puts his right hand over Joe Biden's shoulders so they'll walk out like two great guys going out for a beer. Again, that was fake. But they want to claim you didn't see what I just described to you. There are a lot of Democrats being fed up at so many levels, and part of it, again, has to come down to illegal immigration and the lies from this Biden White House. New York Governor Hochul's favorability and job approval ratings are at the lowest ever, according to a new Siena poll. Her approval rating sits at 44%. 50% disapprove of how she's performed as governor. Of course, she's got so many blue people in that blue state, I should say, that they're going to end up probably keeping her in office. And the same survey, found that Biden's lowest ever favorability in the Empire State, 42%. But he does continue to lead Donald Trump in New York by single digits. Biden maintains support of 3/4 of Democrats in New York. No surprise there. Trump has 85% of the Republican support. Again, no surprise. This debate coming up June 27th is going to be very, very interesting. And again, we will be carrying that debate for you. As soon as my program wraps that night, we'll be switching to CNN for them to do the debate. And we are holding a debate watch party at Johnny's Hideout in High Ridge, so you can certainly come out and join us there. That'll be a lot of fun, I believe. I truly do. I need to let you know in closing that the word has come out officially that we lost an Emmy Award-winning actor at age 88. His son posted a statement on Instagram. With heavy heart, I tell you that my father has passed away. This actor had earned 2 Golden Globes, a Critics' Choice Award, known for portraying unique characters in dozens of film and television roles. Canadian actor, began his film career in The Dirty Dozen, and then Kelly's Heroes, and then became known for roles in Animal House, Backdraft, 6 Degrees of Separation, Pride and Prejudice, and then also one of the stars of The Hunger Games. Have you figured out yet who it is? Well, he also appeared in a program that is often associated with me. What? Larry, you were an actor? No, I might act like I'm smart, but that's the extent of my acting ability, and obviously that fails. But it was a close to a TV newscast that I had for years. If I had practiced and tried to come up with something like this, it would never have worked. So here it comes. For those of you who always ask me, and I say I can't do it anymore. It doesn't work that way. Coming up next, MASH. Yeah, you're right. That's not the MASH theme. That's our ending theme. The actor appeared in MASH, Donald Sutherland. Most accomplished actor. As always, I appreciate you listening. Let others know. Remember our pledge, one nation under God.
You can follow Larry on Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook. This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.